Good morning, YouTube family. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Escape from Crazytown. Good to see you guys hopping on already. What a crazy, wonderful morning, but also, I had some crappies happen today already. So, you get to hear what the happies and crappies are today, for sure. So we have a topic today, and I think it's a really important one, but before we get to it, and the topic is, does the narcissist have a conscience? And I think that does affect our relationship with them if we understand that question, if we understand what's going on with the narcissist um, when we're talking to them, when we're dealing with them, and all of their tirades, all of their emotions, all of that ties into how we can react to them if we know they have a conscience. Okay, you guys. So, because we don't want to get into crazy town with them, we don't want to go into circles and circles with them, trying to convince them of something. But anyway, we're going to hop into that in a moment. Let me close my door. Okay, my dog just entered, so I had to close the door. All right, you guys. Let me see here. Sorry, just had to set a few things on my phone. So, yeah, my happy and crappy hour is about learning from each other and sharing life with one another and creating this community where we can find some sanity, right, and some healing. But it's also to share what's been going well in our life this last week and what has not been going well, because we want to imitate or repeat what has been going well, and we want to stop doing the things that are not going well, right? Find out what our responsibility is in it, or what our reaction could be to it. So for me, my crappy this week actually happened last night, throughout the night, because we are helping some neighbors with dogs, and their dogs got up every 2 to 3 hours and needed to go outside. So yeah, we have the option of not letting them go outside, which we have done in the past. And then what they end up doing is making a mess in our house. So at midnight, and then at 2:30, and then at 5:30, and then of course when I got up, at 7, I had to take the dogs out every time, and yeah. So I'm a little bit loopy this morning. So excuse me if I'm not staying on topic very well today, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to stay focused with the little bit of sleep that I had last night. Let me see if I can get this lighting to work out a little better. Is that a little bit better when there's no glare? Okay, I think so. All right, you guys. So and what's my happy about that though, right? Because I want to know what I can learn about that. Well, okay, I can't change last night. I can't change this morning. But I can definitely change moving forward. So from now on, I'm going to either let them stay outside, weather permitting, of course, or they're going to have to stay in my laundry room when I am at night, when I'm in bed, when I'm sleeping. So I am not going to deal with this getting up every 2 hours like with a newborn baby. Holy cow, I don't know what's up with these dogs. But in the back of your head, you're thinking, well, if I don't let them out, I'm going to wake up to a mess, and I don't want to do that. So I learned from it. Okay, I adjust some rules in my house. I adjust some things I'm going to be doing. Take some action on this, right? And I'm going to solve this problem. So no need to get upset. No need to blame neighbors or never watch the dogs again or anything like that, because you want to keep up the good relationship with your neighbors. But you definitely can change what your rules are, what your standards are, and if they're going to come here and they're going to disturb your sleep, then they have to sleep in the laundry room. Okay? Totally rational, not abusive towards anybody, and we're good, right? So, okay, so I learned my lesson last night. Now, what happy has been going on this week for me? Let me think. There have been a lot of good things. I mean, I was traveling, and that was a couple weeks ago, and I got to go kayaking, and I got to go to the beach, and it was just beautiful. I loved it. It was wonderful. Came back to a blizzard. And that was kind of fun actually because, you know, we prepared well and we were able to just stay home, but we had to shovel, I think, 4 times our driveway and sidewalk and all that business. And it was heavy snow. And why that's good is, it got me outside, it got me in the sun, and it got me exercising. So that was a good thing. And I want to keep doing that. I want to make sure I get myself outside. So I would recommend the same thing for you guys. Get yourself outside, even when the weather is bad, even when it seems like, it's too cold, it's too windy. Give yourself 5 minutes. Just go out there and do something for 5 minutes. You're going to, it kind of wakens you up. You're going to appreciate it. You're going to feel much better. So sometimes we get comfortable or into this comfort zone and we don't want to change it. But what the comfort zone ends up doing to you is it makes you soft. It makes you, you get to the point where you're not even grateful for that. So when you're uncomfortable and you come back into your house, you're like, oh, you're so grateful for how warm it is, or you're so grateful to have gotten out of the wind. You're grateful that you got your heartbeat up a little bit while you're outside, maybe exercising, maybe shoveling. And then you come back inside and you really can appreciate and enjoy the calm and the comfort that's inside your house. So that's a really good thing. Once in a while, get out of your comfort zone, and it just makes you appreciate all the other good things in your life. All right, you guys. Hey, good morning, Amina. Good to see you. It's been a while. And Jihad and Obi, my regulars. Hey, I'm so glad to see you guys here. Jihad, I guess it's been a little while since I've seen you as well, but good to see you. And Obi, good to see you. So you guys, let me see. John, good morning. For some reason that did not show up. So let me change my setting here to live chat. Now I'm starting to see. Okay, terrific. So you guys, today I want to talk about, does the narcissist have a conscience? And people want to say that they do because they want to believe that narcissists are normal people, but with a slight arrogance or a slight self-centeredness, or maybe some trauma that caused them to be more self-focused, right? But you think, and most people want to think, that narcissists can be healed and can be changed, can be enlightened if you just show them the way, if you just explain to them, maybe there's certain words that will finally reach them, or maybe examples that they'll finally understand. But what I am finding is that it's how would I say this? It's a battle that will go on forever. Yes, Obi says pipe dreams. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Diane, good to see you, says no, the narc does not have a conscience. They are narcissists. Letty, good morning. Good to see you. Yeah. Oh, cool, Obi. Okay, I will maybe order that from my husband. It always seems like it could be good. All right. So, yeah. So it comes down to, if we think they can change, that means they have a conscience. If we think that we will somehow get through to them and tap into that empathy or sympathetic nerve of theirs, then that means they have a conscience. But as you and I have seen, they don't have a conscience. And then why we know that is because we see them hurting other people and then not even thinking about it, right? We see them, no matter how hard we try to connect with them, we just can't connect. We see that when we try to explain something to them, they just cannot sympathize. They cannot get to that point of sympathy. They see that they're right, and they seem like they're hell bent on protecting their perspective and the fact that they are right above everything else. Like, they don't care how much they hurt somebody else, so long as they come out on top, so long as they are proven right. And even when they're not proven right, and you have to say, okay, well, we're just going to have to disagree. And that bothers them to no end, because they don't want you to disagree with them. They want you to agree with them that they are right. Holy cow. Yeah, just thinking about the arguments I have had, or discussions even, that I have had with narcissists. Now, they feign as if they understand. Sometimes they feign as if they have sympathy, but then it's fleeting. You can see it come into their eyes for a moment, like maybe they're saying the right words, right? Maybe their facial expression is correct. And you're thinking, wow, they're getting this. They really are getting this. And then within a few seconds, you see it leave their face. You can see that they have no clue. And then they start off with, or start up saying, but, and then they come up with a slew of exceptions for everything you just said, all the explanations, everything that even they admitted to or even they agreed to. And then they go into this exception where they discard everything they just agreed to, right? They dismantle everything they just agreed to. So again, you're trying to get them to have a conscience. You're trying to get them to understand what they did hurt somebody else. And let's dive into that a little bit. Like what is causing that? Why are we not able to reach them? Yeah, I want to see some of these comments here. Oh, Obi says they have a guilty conscience. Okay, well, we'll talk about that for sure. Letty says, people say to forgive the narcissist. It has been a struggle for me when he continues to make negative remarks towards me and gossip about me. Oh my gosh, yes. Forgiving them, here's the deal. There's a few steps that you want to do. Forgiving as in the past, okay? I can forgive what has happened in the past. Now, they continue to hurt you in the present, and you know they're going to continue to hurt you in the future. So what do you do with that? Do you forgive ahead of time? That doesn't really quite make sense to me. What you end up doing is that you have to create boundaries where what they dish towards you, even the gossip, right? You have to deflect that. You have to, to those that they're gossiping to, there are two ways that you can deflect it. One is you just ignore it, right? You just ignore their existence altogether. Okay, these people. Now they're gossiping to other people. You could and for certain, for fact, maybe the person comes to you, the third person comes to you and says, oh, they said this and this about you. Now you can defend yourself and give the truth and say what it is that happened or who the narcissist is. You don't have to defend yourself and your actions, but you can shut down the lies, right? Bring out the truth, shut down the lies. So you can do that. But as far as forgiving them continually, you know what you do? You just ignore them. You have to discard them. You have to go into gray rock mode and not allow yourself to be affected by what they do. What they're going to do, they're going to do, whether you're there or not, whether you approve or whether you're fighting them. They're going to keep on doing it. So what you do is you ignore it. And it's, I realize like I have this great ability to be oblivious to stuff. And for a long time, I thought it went against me. I thought it was an impairment of mine to be oblivious. But then I realized actually being oblivious to a lot of insults or being oblivious to people trying to hurt you is actually good. I'm not talking about like they're setting up a physical trap and you walk in it and then you physically get hurt. But I'm talking about mental traps, right? Where they're trying to capture you, they're trying to affect you, they're trying to make you miserable psychologically. But if you're oblivious to what they're trying to do, it frustrates them because it doesn't land. It doesn't land on you. You don't react to it. You don't even realize they're doing it, right? So don't pay attention to even the fact that they're gossiping about you. I would not go out and find out, are they talking about me? And asking other people, did they say something about me? What did they say when they were with you? Did they talk about me? Just be oblivious to that. And the reason for this is because if they're trying to hurt you, but then you're oblivious to it, you don't get hurt. You just don't. Like other people can behave and choose whatever they want to choose. Now, if there are gossip mongers out there, people who love to trash people and dish out gossip, the narcissist tends to attract that. So those people you don't care to impress anyway. Those people you want to cut out of your life. You want to keep them in your oblivious zone, if you will. You don't want to pay any attention to them. You don't want to interact with them. You don't even want to know what's going on in their life. because they are so busy focused on your life. They want to know everything that's going on with you, and they get some kind of kick out of seeing how you react to the narcissist gossip. So don't give them that. If you're oblivious to that, they just start to lose interest in you because you're boring now to them. With the narcissist, even though they're trying to hurt you, even though they're trying to get back at you, and yet they seem they're not making any impact on you, that frustrates them. That makes them go crazy. So and they just wind themselves up into this crazy zone until they just explode onto themselves or onto other people who are there around them, right? Who are dealing with them and who are not oblivious to them. But as long as you're oblivious to them and you just move on with your life and you keep doing your thing, and you're improving your days and your weeks and you're improving your career and your lifestyle, what, you don't need them. You don't need any thought of them interfering with your new wonderful life. So essentially what you do is you leave them in the dust with their gossip machine, right? And their gossip crowd and whatever they love to do. You leave that behind. You find a better quality of friends, right? Better quality people and groups to hang out with. I am seeing this quite a lot, actually. It's so funny to see. People are starting to come out, and I don't want to talk about too much about what's going on out there in the real world, I guess, in the public square, but it's really interesting to see people say, "Holy cow, this group that I've been with are a bunch of elitist jerks." I'm like, yeah, we kind of knew that because you've been hanging out with a bunch of narcissistic, crazy people. But they tend to gravitate to each other because they believe they're all elitists above us, right? And the funny thing is, at first, the flying monkeys, and the fan club around them feel like they're being lifted up with the narcissist, right? Like they're on this moral high ground. They're on this intellectual elitism above everybody else, and only come to find that when they start looking at each other, when they stop attacking us, when we're ignoring them, right? When we exit the picture, when we, back out of the room, they have no other choice but then to look at each other. And when they start looking at each other, that's when they realize, you're a bunch of jerks. Man, what? I'm in a room with a bunch of elitist, self-righteous jerks who have, out one side of their mouth, they're saying things like how horrible you are or people like you are. And, their flying monkeys are agreeing with them. Their fan clubs agreeing with them. Yeah, you're right. They're horrible. And so long as they agree on how horrible you are, they seem to be getting along, right? They get to be on this moral high ground. They get to pick apart everything about you. They get to gossip about and make up, by the way, a lot of gossip that they dish, total BS, right? Totally unfounded. But they love to make things up and they exaggerate. And then not only does it become an exaggeration, it becomes a total lie. And once it becomes a total lie, they just run with it, right? And they pass, it's like a ball, they pass back and forth, except for this ball gets bigger and bigger and the lie gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And until, and they just are amazing themselves with how horrible you are, right? Until they start to get tired, like, every time we get together, all we talk about is how horrible this person is. And every time we get together and then I leave, I feel like such negativity, such a negative vibe or spirit or whatever on me. I'm not really enjoying this. But they kind of get wrapped up in the trashing, right, of you. So they get together and they're trashing you. And then at some point, one of them will say, or maybe try to change the topic, and the others will not have it. No. And then you realize, wow, there's really nothing we talk about but criticizing people. There's nothing that this group does but tears down people. And that's when it's hilarious to me. But also, it's like, oh, great. It's so great. But it's hilarious to me to watch this happen because people start to leave the group. People start thinking and realizing what a group of a-holes, right? That they were just with. People who patted themselves on the back for being such compassionate, tolerant, loving people. But every time they've been together with, they were maybe loving towards each other, but even that is a show. It's a sham. They'll hug each other, kiss each other, pat each other, whatever, oh, you look great, and compliment one another. But outside of that, it's criticism town. Like all they can do is dish criticism to whoever not there. That's it's just really great to watch people wake up to that. The fan clubs start to wake up to that. But yeah, you guys, I kind of got off on that question there, but glad to see you guys hopping on. Jennifer, good to see you. Yeah. Obi says, mine broke every moral the book has to offer just to cover a 14-year lie because these maniacs weren't raised right. I think it goes, yeah, I think there is a large part about being raised right, but I think there is also a part where it's a wiring in their brain. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah. Let me see here. Sorry, you guys, just hopping down. Yeah. So what is going on with the narcissist? Why is it they're acting like they don't have a conscience? No matter what you say to them, no matter how you um, present to them the truth, it just doesn't seem to land. They just don't seem to wake up, right? They just keep going on their tirades, and you're trying to help them stop this, but they just don't stop. You guys, I'm gonna get a drink of water here. Whew, all that talking. And then barely any sleep. If you guys were here at the beginning, you heard how I did not get much sleep last night because of dogs. Oh my gosh. My neighbor's dogs that came over and kept me up every 2 hours so that they can go outside, and just about wrecked my night, you guys. Okay. So, does a narcissist have a conscience? And we want to say no, they don't. They do look like they have a bit of a conscience because they'll apologize sometimes. But as you know, and I know, they apologize when they know it will get them something. They apologize in order to stop the fight, or the argument, or the examination of their behavior. They'll apologize and then want you to drop it. Or maybe not even apologize. They may just say, look, let's just drop this. And they don't want to fight. And it's like, but you just dropped Moab, mother of all bombs, on me. And now you see me react to it. And then you're telling me, drop it? You're telling me you don't want to discuss this anymore? But now I'm holding it? What the heck, right? So they do this to you, but then you think, oh, they have some kind of a conscience because they're trying not to get ugly. They're trying not to get into a fight. But they just manipulated you. They just dropped a seed. And not just a little seed. They dropped a big seed that's going to grow, and the roots are going to infect every area of your life and that day, and it's going to ruin your day. And they don't care. I mean, this is how they behave. So what is causing this? I do think that some of it may be how they're raised, but it has to be, somebody's trying to get on my table. Get down, get down. So I think that a lot of us can have the exact same experience with a narcissist growing up, but then not become or be like a narcissist when we're a young adult or when we're a teenager. But it takes some kind of wiring inside of a narcissist that turns them, makes them behave like a narcissist, right? Makes them behave or act out of a lack of conscience, makes them egotistical. And what I mean by that is self-centered to the point where they just cannot put somebody's health, somebody's security, anybody in front of their own. So it has to do with some kind of wiring, brain wiring. And that's why it's so frustrating talking to a narcissist, because you're thinking that their brain is going to connect to this empathy or empathetic part. But it's not there. The wiring is not there. And possibly the section that that has and holds the empathy in a person is not there. So instead, what they have is what they call their truth, right? It's their reality, it's their truth. And that's why when you're around a narcissist, it feels like you're in freaking crazy town because you have to live in what they call truth, but you feel like this is total crazy town because everything's contradictory and nothing makes sense. It's not consistent, it's not logical. And on one leg, it might sound good, but then when you put all the other rest of the picture together, you're thinking, wait, this isn't quite fit. How do we live this way? So the narcissist, though, they create what they call their own reality. They create their own truth, right? And so if you disagree with them, to the narcissist, you're disagreeing with truth. So therefore, you're crazy. Therefore, you have no morals. Therefore, you are the liar because their truth, and I can't stand it when people are like, my truth. I'm like, there is the truth, and then there's your perspective. Okay? It's not your truth, it's your perspective. There's the truth, and then we each have a perspective. And some of us are closer to the truth than others. And a real person and a good person, a thinking person, would use logic, would use critical thinking to get closer and closer to the truth rather than pushing their perspective. Like they'll ignore the truth and push their perspective of what they thought the truth was and do everything they can short of a nuclear war to protect their perspective. But they label it their truth, right? Because it sounds like, oh, well, then, how can I attack something that has the label truth to it, right? No, but you can attack something that's has the label perspective on it. It's like, well, okay, that's your perspective, but here's the truth. We could say like there are 4 oranges on this plate right here, okay? That's in the screen in front of you. And you can kind of see the 4th orange behind, right, in the back there. And the narcissist, depending on where they're sitting, may not see that little part of the 4th orange. And another person sitting maybe closer to the cup can fully see the 4th orange. All right? So if the narcissist is sitting on the side where they can only see 3 oranges, and the other person sitting on the side where they can see all 4 oranges, the narcissist is going to insist there are only 3. There are only 3 oranges here. And you have to accept this because I see only 3. And if I see only 3, you cannot convince me there are 4. And the other person saying, well, on my side of the table here, I can see all 4. Or my, corner here, I can see all 4. And the narcissist is going to say, well, I'm going to trust my eyes before I trust your eyes. And they refuse to use any kind of critical thinking. They refuse to even shift position to see from your perspective. They refuse to even walk around to the other side of the table to see that, oh, in fact, there is a 4th orange. That would take thinking. That would take logic. That would take critical thinking. But narcissists want to believe what they do, and they want to protect what they believe is true. And instead of investigate to see if maybe their perspective is off. That is what you're dealing with when you're arguing with a narcissist. And it does tie into their conscience because they will die on this hill. They will destroy people on this hill to protect their perspective. And you're like, wow, why? Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody demolish another person based on this perspective? It's just a perspective. But when they call it their truth, when they call it, when they think of it as truth, then they identify with it. Now it's their identity. Their truth is their identity. It's not a perspective anymore. It's their identity. So when they hear you tell them, no, from my perspective, I see 4, they're going to take it as an attack on their identity. And you're like, why are they reacting this way? And I've had people react this way. just blows my mind. Then I go, wow, I said this one thing that has nothing to do with you, and yet you blow up at me. What the heck? It's because they have decided that what I said, or maybe the opposite of what I said, is the truth. And because I said something that questions it, I don't even have to attack their truth. I don't even have to dismantle their truth. I just say, hey, come walk over here and take a look at it from this side. They freak out. They freak out. They refuse to listen. And I'll give you an example of this. It would be like, and I've used this example a few times with people, it would be like you're on a jury, right, watching a murder trial. And the prosecutor brings in a picture. Aw, Obi, nice of you. Thank you for donating. That's really sweet. I appreciate that because, man, I'll tell you, YouTube is, I don't know, going down or something. But anyway, appreciate that, you guys. So, okay, you're in a courtroom and you're part of the jury, but there's one jurist who, or juror, I don't know what they call it, I guess juror, who goes in completely convinced that there was no murder, completely convinced that the person who's on trial, right, is innocent. So they're absolutely convinced this person is innocent. And so the prosecutor brings in, the rest of them are open minded. They're like, okay, the other 11 are sitting there waiting to see evidence, waiting before they decide. But the one juror is already, nope, I've decided. Is that right? 12 angry? Yeah. So 12 jurors. So the one juror, every time the prosecutor presents anything, that one juror turns their head, closes their eyes, refuses to look. So there are pictures of the murder scene. There are pictures of the body. There are pictures of, not even just pictures. There's actual, here's the knife, like they bring in the knife and the pictures of fingerprints that they found on the knife matching the defendant, right? And there are pictures of the knife right next to the body. And then they have eyewitnesses that come in and they testify. They're sitting on the jury in the, what do you call that box? And they're testifying. They say an oath, they're like, I am on condition or whatever, on the possibility of me going to jail for perjury, I take this oath. And they tell the court what they saw, right? They tell the jurors what they saw. They were standing in the same room, or they heard next door the yelling or whatever. They see the defendant fleeing from the apartment. They may even have witnessed the actual crime itself, right? So they're up there giving this testimony, and the one juror is just humming to themselves, like, I'm not going to listen to this because I know everybody is against this defendant. I know everybody is not going to be fair, so I'm not going to listen. So they refuse to listen to testimony. It doesn't matter how many people come forward. It doesn't matter how much evidence is presented to them. They refuse to look at it. And you're like, but how could that possibly happen? That doesn't happen. But it happens, you guys. It happens in the real world. It happens with narcissists. If you've dated a narcissist, you've seen this in action. You're like, I'm telling them, walk over here. You can see this. If you walk over here and take a look. And they're like, I'm not even going to look. Are you crazy? I already know what's over there. I saw it yesterday. And you're like, what the heck? Why are they putting up such a crazy fight about just walking over and taking a look, right? Why is that? And again, let me tell you, it's because they have decided that it is their truth, their reality, and now if you should suggest that their perspective is incorrect, they're considering it as their reality is incorrect. They're considering it as their identity is incorrect. And they will fight to the death to protect that. I've seen it. It's absolute craziness. And you're like, this person has turned into a freaking demon. They've turned into a crazy lunatic demon screaming at you about there being only 3 oranges on the table, right? Or, okay, let's say this. They'll even things like this. Um, they'll say, well, I bought 5 apples yesterday, and now there are only two, or there are only 4 left on the table. What happened to that one apple? You ate that apple, right? So they just assume. They make these assumptions. And now this is again their reality. It's not their perspective. It's their reality. And then you say, I don't know, I didn't take it. And they're like, yes, you did, because you're the only other person who lives here, so you must have taken it. And you're like, but I'm aware of what I do. I didn't take it. And it comes, and then it turns out that late that night, or maybe not even that night, yeah, maybe late that night, they walk into the kitchen to get a cup of water and they knock one of the apples off the table and they don't realize they did that. And here it is, the apple's under the fridge, or not under, but beside the fridge, or under the counter, or, under the table. And you're like, hey, look at that. It's right here. It's under the table. And you bring it out. They still will not admit that they were wrong. They still won't. They'll say, oh, you put that apple there because I already had told you this morning that you ate my other apple. And you put it there to make me think that, And so they will fight again, tooth and nail, to the end, to destroy anything you have to, and they will destroy you if you stand against them. Like, if you do not concede to their reality, they will try to destroy you. And that's why I come to this point where I say, no, they don't have a conscience, because they are delusional. They have some kind of bizarre wiring in their head that prevents them from having, what is it? I'm sorry, you guys. I have a bit of brain fog this morning because of the dogs keeping me up through the night. But they don't want to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to, and especially they don't want to apologize to you for how they treated you and how they accused you and how they demeaned you and how they were yelling in your face, or they were threatening you. They're not going to apologize, because to them that affects their identity. They don't see it as, they can't separate their perspective from their existence. They can't see, like, oh, sometimes my perspective isn't right, just like your perspective isn't right. And I've seen other people who make mistakes, so maybe I make mistakes too. They don't see it that way. They see it as, well, that's all the information I had, so I'm still right. So it's still my reality. And they keep thinking that because they operate out of what they think is their reality, and therefore everybody's reality, and everybody should accept their reality, then everything they do to support their reality, even if it's to attack you, even if it's to discredit you, even when you're right, they think it's appropriate. They think it's okay. They don't see anything wrong with it, because they operated from what they thought was the truth. And it's like, yeah, but do you understand? It was just your perspective. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't the truth. It's not your truth. There is truth, and then there is your perspective. And narcissists just don't get that, because they believe their perspective is the truth. Oh gosh, you guys, so much insanity. I don't even know where to begin with. I mean, we could go on with that. But let me see. James, good to see you. Oh, it says my ex-narc wife was a thief. Yeah. And you think again, where's the conscience with that? People will make excuses. So that's another thing narcissists do as well. Because in their truth, in their reality, they feel they're entitled to what you have. Like, if whatever their feelings are, then that supports whatever they do. So if they feel like they need something, then that supports them taking it from you, right? Whether they earned it, whether you offered it, whether or not they have to lie, cheat in order to steal it, right? They don't see how their need, or their feeling like they need something from you, is wrong. They don't see that. because they think if I feel something, then I need to fulfill this feeling. I need to follow through with this feeling. And they don't see how their feelings are fleeting, right? Their feelings, what they're feeling right now, they may not feel later on. Okay, so the thief thing. In the moment, they might feel like, okay, and I hate to use this example, but it happens a lot. People who have an addiction, a lot of times they will rob, right? They will steal in order to maintain that addiction, right? To feed that addiction. So in their mind, and I'm not saying all people who do this have no conscience, but a lot of this is how narcissists think. They feel like I have this addiction. My body is going to crash if I don't feed this addiction. So therefore, this is just survival. I'm doing this for survival. And you don't really need that $20 in your purse. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to take it. Or you don't need that $20 in your wallet. Or that box of change or jar of change that you keep around. I'm going to empty that because apparently you don't really value that. That's just like a knickknack jar to you, even though it's clearly a jar of money, right? Of coins. And they'll feel like, well, then I should be able to use these coins because you won't even miss it. So their perspective is that you don't value this jar of coins. You don't value the $20 sitting in your wallet because it's been sitting in your wallet all week and you didn't even use it yet. So you must not really need it. So they feel like their perspective, their reality is that this $20 will serve me better than it'll serve you, so I should take it. And they don't even see, like, when you come to them and say, what the heck, I was going to buy lunch with that. I was going to, buy a train ticket with it. And to get into town, to go to work or whatever. And they're like, yeah, but you weren't using it. It's been there all week. How come you didn't even touch it? Like, that's not the point. The point is not when I was going to use it. The point is I was going to use it because it's mine. And what matters to them, though, is their really bizarre reality, their bizarre truth, where they think you're making a big deal out of something that you didn't even use for a whole week, and now you're getting mad at them. And they can't see, they can't understand there's a perspective in play here, that their perspective is wrong. It never belonged to them. They didn't earn it. They didn't even ask to use it. They didn't ask to have it. They just took it because of their feelings, right? At the time, they felt like they needed this. And therefore, that means it's okay for them to take it. You guys, you're dealing with an absolute insanity. So here's the deal. How do you combat this? How do you talk to a narcissist then that's stealing from you or taking from you and believing they're entitled to do it? It's pretty simple. You don't accept it. You don't accept that behavior. You're like, no. Either, this is harsh. I know it's harsh to a lot of you guys, but you got to cut that person out of your life if they keep acting this way, right? If they keep taking from you, they keep abusing you, if they keep treating you like trash, and you keep telling them, hey, stop that. And they keep feeling like it's your fault that they treat you like trash and that you deserve it when they treat you like trash, because their perspective, their truth, their reality is that you were wrong and they were right, right? There's no perspective in here. It's just they're always right and you're always wrong. Therefore, it's okay for them to treat you the way they do because they're right. It's their identity. If they're being like that with you, you have to cut them out of your life. You have to say, or at least cut them out of your physical life, right? If you have to be connected to them by blood for, it's an aunt, uncle, relative, cousin, brother, sister, or whatever. Maybe an ex-spouse that you have to share children with and you have to see them once in a while. Okay. But as far as interaction, as far as any personal interaction, social interaction, even professional interaction, you cut that out. You're like, no, no, we're not going to have this. And to them, it's really weird. This is where, we started off with the gossip thing. How do you forgive? Because now to them, even though they're not in your life, they're going to trash you. Even though you've cut them out, they're going to try to hurt you by gossiping about you to anybody who is willing to listen, right? And you're like, how am I supposed to forgive this? And that's where once you cut them out of your life, you become oblivious to them. Like, you protect yourself. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean like you're walking around like, oh, every day is just sunny and bright and there are butterflies and unicorns, no, you protect yourself financially. You make sure that there's no way they can attack you in that way. You make sure that everything is back in your name, that belongs to you. You get all the legal things taken care of. Physically, if they're abusive and a threat or violent, then you make sure that you file police reports and keep track of any record interaction that you have with them. Record any time you're around them or have to deal with them. You protect yourself, but you don't go out of your way following them or watching how they are. I don't know. It is different. I do want to say, like, it is different. You do want to be aware if they're a violent person. You do want to be aware of, like, where are they? Where do they live in town, right? Should you move out of town? If you move out of town, like, oh, they followed you into the new town. That type of thing you do want to be aware of. But as far as, yeah, they're just an ex who, is bad mouthing you and has a lot of emotional problems, and you know this. And so they couldn't take it when you discarded them, when you were like, that's enough cheating in my life. You got to go. And now they're just bad mouthing you. Ignore that. Just let them go, because they're going to talk themselves into a pit and then annoy everybody who's around them and just cause problems for themselves while you get to be oblivious to it, while you get to move on with your life. And you can forgive them in their, for the past things they've done. Somebody was saying that earlier, you guys, whoever's hopping on, like, how do I forgive? And what, people keep telling me I have to forgive. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to forgive them from what they've done to you, but you don't have to forgive them for, ahead of time, as if you're saying, hey, here's a welcome mat, or you just can wipe your feet on me. No, you're not saying that. So you can forgive them for what they did in the past. And what that does is it frees you from trying to get something from them, right? Get them to pay for what they did to you in the past, emotionally or psychologically. But if you don't keep paying attention to them and you don't keep tabs on them because you want to see, you want to continue to exact payment from them or get some kind of payment back from them. I'm not talking about physical payment, by the way, but you're trying to keep tabs on them because you're wanting justice, you're wanting karma, you're wanting all of this. And people are saying, well, just forgive them. Look, you don't have to forgive them for stuff they haven't done to you yet. And you don't have to forgive them for stuff that they are continually doing to you if you are oblivious to it. Now, paying attention to it, detail to detail, and it will drive you crazy. It's going to be very hard to forgive or let it go. And what forgiveness does, by the way, is it helps you to let go. And if you're not paying attention to the disastrous life that they are living, trying to pull you back into their disastrous life, if you're not paying attention to that, there's nothing to let go of. There's nothing to forgive. There's nothing, you have to work through with them because they're gone. They're out of your life. So that gray rock is amazing for getting over the narcissist. And also maybe using it as a way to not get yourself into a situation where you have to forgive them again, right? Yeah. Well, you guys, thanks for hopping on here. Clifford, let me see. Hold on. Oh, Clifford, good to see you. Says the narcissist sibling and her narcissist husband are so emboldened by Satan that they are trying to steal over half the family trust. Oh my gosh, my half, so I need to take them to court. Oops, hold on, you guys. They're crazy. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and when it becomes a legal issue, you absolutely want to make sure you have record and you're keeping record of everything, of every interaction, every text, every email, Every phone call, you want to record it, by the way. You like set your phone on record before you answer. Just do stuff like that, or learn how to do it. How to set your phone on record before you answer. Yep. Yeah, James says, yes, the lying, cheating, gambling was why I left. Yeah, that addiction. Obi says, pictures of them in the action and they'll still fight for their innocence. Yes, exactly. Because their reality, oh, I hate it when they say that. Their reality, their truth. I'm just like, no, it's your perspective. It's your truth. Your reality is not the truth, and it is not my life. And I don't have to live by your reality or your truth. I'm going to live by the truth, right? And what's in reality. I'm going to live by what is actually happening in this world and not by your perspective of what's happening. It's absolute crazy town when you try to understand and get into the mind of a narcissist. Rise Shines, good to see you. Yeah, yeah. And you have to be careful. Obi says heavy drinking and excessive drug use leads to narcissism. It absolutely leads to people behaving without a conscience. I was just watching a crime show yesterday where there are these four men accused of participating in murdering this snowboarder dude, right? Who pretty much lived his life. His whole goal was to eat, sleep, and snowboard. Like that's his whole life. To snowboard, and that's all he did in his life. It was his goal, and he had friends, and he was a very likable person, and people called him the gentle giant. He was like 6'5", and it was on Crime Watch last night. If you guys want to look it up, but he was traveling to Wyoming, I guess, to do some snowboarding and celebrating his 29th birthday with some friends, but he never makes it there. He never makes it to Jackson Hole, where he was headed. And instead, a few years later, his body was found in the desert. It pretty much looked like a desert landscape in Wyoming somewhere. And it turned out there's one guy who showed up 3 years after the snowboarder went missing. This guy shows up with the snowboarder's backpack and hands it in and says, yeah, I found this and it belongs to the guy. Anyway, it leads the police to the three other guys, and there was, they pretty much had all the evidence, everything ready to go, and there was one thing that, and I don't understand why this stood in the way. They insisted the crime had to have happened like June 2nd or July 2nd or something like that. But this is like from 3 years, 4 years prior. Like, how can you decide that oh wait, I'm trying to remember, it was 3 or 4 years that they found the backpack, but it was quite some time later that they finally find the body, right? No, so it couldn't have been 3 or 4 years that they found the body. So if whatever time it took them to finally find the body was like weeks or something, and now they're deciding that it had to have been this day. Now, I would have gotten a different expert to say maybe it wasn't necessarily that day. It could have been a day or two before or after. And but what happened was the guy who was primarily the uh, the target or the suspect in the crime, he said it couldn't have been me because I have an alibi. And this is after like months and months and months of going back and forth and collecting information and finally making it to the court date. And court date was set, and they were about to go to court. And the suspect says, I couldn't have been me because I was already in jail for something else. Or I was, I don't know how that worked, but he was in jail for something else. And they checked the records, and surely enough, he was. He was in jail for something else on that specific day. Now the question is, was he in jail couple of days before, a couple of days after? I mean, could he have actually committed this crime and then brought himself, uh, what do they call that when they go and turn themselves in? Yeah, where he came in for his whatever hearing, or I don't know. I don't know all that. So anyway, come to find out, these four guys, everything points to them. And you think, oh, well, they did it. They really look like they're a mess. But then there was this woman who dated a couple of them, and she said, they're the nicest people. They were always concerned about me and opened the car door for me. They were very gentlemanly with me. And the reporter said, well, you know, do you think that maybe um, if they were on drugs, that would change? And then suddenly the conversation changes, right? So the drugs and alcohol thing changes a person, changes who they are, changes their ability to do what's right. And what it really looked like was these four guys were probably doing drugs and driving in a car down this way. And the snowboarder often, what do you call it? Um, why can't I think of it? Hitchhikes, right, for a ride. And so when these four guys picked him up, they probably, hey, stop it. They probably just got into it and thought, anyway, just whatever. All it takes, by the way, is one person to start and the others to join in. So it's sad to say, but drugs and alcohol does change a person, does interfere with their ability to do what's right. So be very careful if you're involved with someone who's an alcoholic or a drug addict. You cannot be safe with that. So anyway, I kind of went off on that. Sorry, you guys. Again, like I said, these dogs did not let me sleep last night. So, but I think we did okay. I think we did okay so far. So let me see how you guys are all doing here. Yeah, okay. I think I got most of these comments. Obi, you're hilarious. Says, my girlfriend and I made a shirt that says America's best mother for a gift to her narc mother. Oh my gosh. Anything is the narcissist will love it. Love it. James, good to see you, says the lying, cheating, gambling. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I already read that. Was why I left. Yeah, you guys, insanity. Well, here's the other thing, you guys. So we're asking, does a narcissist have a conscience? And we talked about their brain wiring, their belief that their reality, their truth supersedes actual reality or actual truth. They also do mental gymnastics to continue and perpetuate their reality, right? They have to continually bend reality, bend the truth in order for their perspective to be predominant, to be sustained. And here's the deal though, you have to do these mental gymnastics in order to continually believe their lies as well. And when you get caught in that and you realize, oh my gosh, this is inconsistent, illogical, and nothing is lining up, you have to exit. You have to remove yourself because this person is not going to back down. Narcissists do not back down from their perspective because, like I said before, their perspective is their reality, is their truth, is their identity. And most of us can say, yeah, I have a perspective, but then you can change my perspective. We can have a conversation. We can have an intelligent conversation where if you present facts to me, you can change my mind, right? You might show me things that I hadn't seen before, or perspective I hadn't thought of before, and I could change my perspective. But a narcissist thinks that their perspective is their identity. So they don't want to look at some other perspective that challenges what they think is their identity. So does the narcissist feel bad though when they're doing this? No. I think we all know this. They don't. They don't really feel bad. They might feel a little bit of guilt or a little bit of, a little bit bad when they way overdo the fight, right? They know they way stepped over lines that they shouldn't have, maybe violently, physically, right, mentally. But and for a moment they might feel a little bit bad that they did that, but not so much because they hurt you, but because they lost control of themselves, but because they allowed the situation to unsettle them and throw them off. I think that's what they really feel guilty about. They don't feel so guilty that they hurt you because you are such a separate person, or not even separate person, but you're so non existent in their reality, in their truth, that whatever happens to you doesn't affect them. Like they cannot empathize, they can't feel what you're feeling. So when people ask, what does the narcissist feel guilty? Do they feel bad? I think they do, but not because of you or because of what they did to you. It's more of what they did to themselves, that they became unhinged, they were unsettled, they lost their cool, whatever you want to call it, right? And they didn't like that. They want to always be in control of themselves and of you and of the situation, and they lost control. That's probably what they feel guilty or bad about, is that they have this standard for themselves that they are not going to lose control, and then they did. But then here, you guys, this is another thing that comes through to them. Every time this happens, what they will end up doing is make up excuses for why they lost control, why they went crazy on you. And I hope you can follow this because my mind's a little bit tired right now with the lack of sleep from these dogs. But if they, every time they get caught exploding or doing things that they didn't mean to do, but they had no self-control and they lost their self-control, they're a bit embarrassed about it. They're a bit, they have a bit of concern or whatever you want to call it about it because they're embarrassed maybe that they lost control. So they feel a little bit bad because they're embarrassed that they lost control. Or even embarrassed because they were caught in the middle of a lie, an absolute flat out lie, and they were caught. So they might feel a little bit embarrassed, but do they feel bad that they hurt you? No, no, they don't. They don't feel. Okay, hey you guys, sorry, my phone just interrupted because I think someone's trying to log in as me. I'm like, no, don't do that. So, what I was gonna try before I got interrupted there was that they're going to practice covering up. They're going to practice making excuses and making up stories for why they behaved the way they did, why they lost their cool, why they lost their self control. And the more they do these mental gymnastics, right, to excuse themselves, the more that becomes a part of them. The less they will have a conscience about what they do. So essentially what they're doing is they're practicing not having a conscience. They're practicing covering up when they hurt you or excusing themselves when they hurt you. And the more they practice that, the less ability they will have to wake up to the fact that they hurt you, or the fact that they're guilty, or the fact that they're responsible for something they did to you. So for us to try to reach that conscience that we think is inside of them, it's not going to happen. And especially as they've gotten older and older. And it's so weird because it's sort of like they go on this bizarre curve, right? At the beginning of their life, they may not show huge signs of narcissism, but they're starting to because they're looking at their reality, they're looking at their truth as their identity. Now, as they get into their teen years, their 20s, 30s, even their 40s and 50s, they go crazy protecting themselves. They go really, really deep into their reality, their truth, which is not our truth, which is not even the truth, right? And they will do everything to protect that ego, to protect themselves. And then as they get into their 60s, 70s, they might be less physically able to fight, but they're still, or maybe even mentally, they're not as agile as they used to be. So even their arguing isn't going to be as good and on point as it used to be. The mental gymnastics they used to do actually requires being mentally fit, and they're not mentally fit enough to do that anymore. So they seem to back out or back down, right, a bit more. And you're thinking, wow, maybe they're changing. maybe they're not as narcissistic as they used to be. But actually, it's just that their body and their mind are getting tired and they're not able to fight back. They're not able to maintain the gymnastics it takes to live their lives. Okay. So we might take that though as them starting to grow a conscience because they're not fighting as hard anymore. But it's sad, but it's not true. Okay. They go into these attack modes whenever they feel their ego is threatened. And even when they're really old, they do. They go into attack mode or they go into retreat mode. And what that is, when they're getting older, they're not going to attack as much or they can't maintain attack as much. So they just retreat. And their retreat or maybe their silence makes you think, oh, they're agreeing with me now. And by the way, silence is not agreement. And silence is just an indication of either I'm just too tired to fight with you or I know not to fight with you because I know I can't win. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I took a couple of notes. So this is why they don't understand that they could be wrong or even admit when they are. Because they feel that if their perspective is attacked, is challenged, then it's their whole being, their identity that's being challenged or attacked. So they can't understand that they could be wrong. They can't understand that you trying to show them reality, truth, even with evidence. They can't understand that all of this could actually point to the fact that they're wrong. It's so insane. It's so insane. Wow. Well, you guys, our hour is up, and I'll give you a couple of minutes here if you want to wrap up any of your comments to each other. Keating, yes, says yes, but they don't care. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, says that as a response to OB's question, are potheads bad? Ooh, and Keating says yes, but they don't care. Yeah. Now, yeah, that's why be careful, even with pot. People say it's not addictive. I don't know. But if someone has to rely on something, and it doesn't even have to be drugs, you guys, they can be addicted to food. They could be addicted to sugar. They could be addicted to porn, right? They could be addicted to TV shows, certain TV shows. And what happens, or even a certain schedule, like every day at 6 o'clock, they have to be watching some show, or every day at 8:30 p.m. exactly, their show comes on. And if they're addicted to anything like that, then what happens is if you get in the way, if you prevent them from turning that TV on at 8:30 sharp, they will go crazy on you, right? If they're addicted, that you're going to expect a freaking crazy fight, um, or you can expect because to them, addictions, no matter what they are, it's like they feel like they need this. They feel like they have to have that, even pot. So I do think that pot is probably addictive in that way, but I don't know that they go crazy on you when they can't get it, but I think they do. I think I have seen some crime shows where that does happen. But I think that mainly it's their escape, right? And if you get in the way of their escape from reality, from their pain or whatever, the stress, then you might find yourself in a huge embroiled fight with them. So yeah, be careful with anybody who has, and we all have certain tendencies, okay? But that's why we're a living being. We're constantly changing, we're constantly growing, we're constantly bettering ourselves. And we're doing this while in social contact with each other, in community with each other, and learning from each other. And that's why having lots of different perspectives is really good, and being willing to see somebody else's perspective. Now, their perspective may not be right. It could be tainted because of the way they were raised. It could be tainted because of their experiences in different parts of their life. And they just got twisted or It's a good, better word, but they got encouraged, I guess, to think a certain way. Just because they have a perspective doesn't mean it's right, but it might get you to think about things a little bit differently, right? It might change your perspective a little bit and maybe even broaden your perspective to be closer to the actual truth. So if we want to know the truth, we want to be able to listen to other people's perspectives, okay? Don't take it as your perspective is your identity either, because your perspective can change. Their perspective can change. And people say that all the time right now. They're like, well, I didn't know any better, so I apologize for what I said and what I did, and I didn't know. Okay, well, that was a perspective. Is it their identity? No. So we don't need to hold on to people forever and ever and ever and ever and say, well, that was your identity. Now, have they hurt people because of that? Yeah, there may be some consequences then to what they did, even though it was their perspective, right? Anyway, you guys, I guess I'm getting on to that a bit more. I just want to give you guys a couple of minutes to tie up your conversations. Amina, be safe always, she says. You too. Thank you guys all so much. Let me see what Obi, you always throw in some good things at the very end too. Oh yeah, it says the hardest thing I ever did was quit cigarettes. Yeah, cigarettes are expensive. That's an expensive habit. Well, so are drugs, I guess. Don't have those kinds of bad habits, you guys. That would be my suggestion. Get good sleep, stay healthy, do a little exercise, get outside some. Just make yourself healthier. You're going to be happier. It's good. Life is good, you guys. Life is so good. Right now, it is beautifully sunny where I am, and I love it. So I'm going to go outside and enjoy the sun and those dogs that are sitting outside right now. I can hear them barking. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. God bless you guys. I mean, I don't mean that as, I know there's such a big fight right now against Christians. Don't take this as an insult. I've heard that people who are easily offended are easily manipulated. Don't take that as an insult. Just take that as a good thing from me to you, okay? So I wish you well. I will see you next week. And take care of yourself. Do the right thing. And learn different people's perspectives maybe this week. All right. I will talk to you then.